Pearl is the latest catalog entry in A24's bid to be the only film production company worth mentioning by name. Directed by Ty West and starring co-writer Mia Goth in a tour de force performance that somehow manages to be both intimately charming and emotionally devastating. The film is a prequel to the 2022 film X, a very well-made mid-budget 80s slasher film throwback. In a similar vein, Pearl is a greatest hits package of classic psycho killer origin stories all crammed into one that's better than it has any right to be. Where X is a handsome and accessible, if somewhat by the numbers slasher, Pearl is a mesmerizing character study of how tenuous the thread holding together sanity actually is, and what it takes to break that thread. We meet Pearl, a shy 20-ish farm girl enduring a destitute farm life in 1918. While dreaming of a life of fame and prosperity. World War I is nearing its end, and Pearl has a husband overseas entrenched in combat. She lives with her parents. Her father is a wheelchair-bound, semi-comatose vegetable, only able to chew bits of food and swallow mouthfuls of liquid morphine to remain alive. Her mother is a strict and overbearing German Hausfrau that berates Pearl any chance she gets. She constantly crushes Pearl's lofty fantasies about a life outside of the confines of their minimalist lifestyle. But Pearl dreams of being a dancer, and takes any opportunity to go to the local theater and watch the Follies. One day after a show, she meets the cinema's projectionist, who shows her a bit of kindness and offers to show her more of the Follies any time her heart desires. She leaves with a single frame of celluloid, and dreams of a brighter future as she pedals home on her bike. A stiff wind blows the film frame from her pocket, and she combs through a cornfield in an attempt to find it. As she stumbles upon a scarecrow, her fantasies overtake her, and we're shown her fragile psyche beginning to unravel. She dances with the scarecrow, imagining it to be the projectionist. She then takes it a step further, simulating sex with the straw man. Returning home, she continues to fantasize about one day being a chorus girl, dancing her way to fame on the Broadway stage. All the while, her mother continues to berate her for what she considers lofty ambitions and a lack of dedication to the quiet country lifestyle. A local and well-to-do friend of the family, Mitzi, and her mother come to drop off some food, and while Pearl's mother rejects the offering as charity, Mitzi takes Pearl aside to inform her of an upcoming audition for a traveling dance troupe. Pearl sneaks off to town to take up the projectionist's offer to watch more films. Instead of more Follies, he plays for her a stag film, evidently all the rage in Europe. Pearl is mesmerized and leaves with the advice to chase her dreams. Pearl makes plans to attend the dance tryouts, and her fantasies expand, growing ever more lofty and sure of her success as her mind continues to form illegitimate relationships and delusions of grandeur, until she reaches a breaking point and it all comes crashing down like a house of cards on fire in a hurricane. Mia Goth's performance is nothing short of extraordinary. She exudes a gentle vulnerability stemming from her naively simplistic worldview. She has a painful psychological frailty, which is shattered when her dreams of absolute stardom are betrayed by a series of psychologically damaging events, and is brought crashing to reality. The turn is explosive, and Goth's instantaneous switch to the dark side is unnerving. There is one hypnotic 7-minute-long unbroken monologue with no cuts in which Pearl lays out the hideous things she's done, in the form of a stream-of-consciousness confession to Mitzi, as if her friend were her husband. It's a riveting sequence, and Goth takes absolute ownership of every emotion on the spectrum throughout. The look on her friend's face at the end of it is absolutely priceless. Pearl has now pole-vaulted over the psychological line separating fantasy from reality. As Mitzi reacts with utter shock at Pearl's confessions, she sees that Pearl is no longer the hyper-shy farm girl that she knew, and in her place sits this sociopathic murderer, seething with absolute manic lunacy. She tries to appeal to Pearl's humanity, and tries to placate her by offering help, when it's clear that she's just trying to get the fuck out of the house. Pearl is wise to the ploy, and as Mitzi backpedals out of the house, Pearl grabs an axe and pursues her up the driveway, hacking away at her friend until Mitzi eventually collapses as Pearl finishes her off. Pearl returns and lies down with her mother's corpse, and then tidies up the house in anticipation of the return of her husband. The next morning, Howard arrives to find Pearl sitting at the kitchen table, her dead parents propped in place. As he gazes at the horrific scene, Pearl smiles and starts to cry. It's not a perfect film. It has some issues with pacing and character motivation, but it delivers the goods with such panache and visceral aggressiveness that it's hard to find much fault in the technical production of this twisted tale of psychological trauma. The acting is top-notch. You really get a sense that these people, embedded in early 20th century farm life, have no concept of horror and can't grasp the murderous lengths to which a person can reach in search of the American dream, until it's too late. Mia Goth is electric as Pearl. She gives a stunning air of sympathy to this poor, damaged farm girl with Ziegfeld aspirations. She also exudes strength when Pearl is flipped to her more vindictive, power-mad persona. If for nothing else, the film is worth watching for her performance alone. Writer and director Ty West's career has been on a steady uphill trajectory since his first release, 2009's The House of the Devil. Each of his films show a growing appreciation and understanding of visual storytelling, and a flair for bringing out the best in his cast. Pearl is something of an anachronism, blending the old-world charm of a simpler era with modernistic but still universal human tendencies such as jealousy, rage, and the yearning to build a life outside of the box that we're born into. It's an intriguing prequel that expands and improves on the series in every way. I, for one, can't wait to see Part 3, reportedly titled Maxine.